It is time for round 2 of season 15, and it is the Shanghai circuit in China. 16 corners make up this circuit, and we are about to have another thriller. If you missed last week in Bahrain, here's a small recap. George Williams with his 11th Tier 2 victory, and he has been on it. The champion from last season has won 6 of the last 8 Tier 2 races. We're going to find out if he can keep himself on the top. As for his teammate Polo God, he was in contention for a victory, and it was the first time in a long while George had a teammate up there at the end of the race, but Polo bottled it. So it was not a McLaren 1-2, but it was Aston Martin in second with Night Owl, coming just shy of the victory. Night Owl and Aston Martin still have yet to win in Tier 2. And after a storage room decision due to a appeal from a penalty given by the game, Mintoki did get third, meaning in back-to-back days in RPL for the first time in its history, we've had female drivers on the podium, and both happened with Mercedes Academy. So I think that's some great different storylines, and probably one more thing to include that we didn't mention yet was we had about up to 6 different leaders of the Grand Prix last week. Alongside me tonight, I'm Ryan Searles. This is Polish Hammer alongside me. It's good to have you, Polish. I mean, a lot of storylines to look forward to. Before we get to those storylines, which there's a lot of them, how are you doing?
I'm feeling great. It's good to be back. Good to have a voice again. I am excited to see some good Tier 2 action for the first time in about 3 weeks.
You know, you missed last week, as you mentioned, which was very unfortunate not to have you here. But, you know, you did watch back portions of it. We had Ardell, who moved from Tier 3 to Tier 2, take the lead of the Grand Prix and be in contention for the victory for 2/3 of the race. George's 11th Tier 2 win in the last lap. Night Owl P2, and Night Owl, I guess, being a part of that headline for Aston Martin, doing really well last week. Mintoki podium from pole. Polo God's Bottle, and the rookies, Uri, Turbo, Goatley. Uri, I believe, was the only one of the points. Turbo may have just nicked a point, or Goatley. Either way, Polish with Turbo and Uri, Goatley, the rookies, and the other headlines, Uri getting a top 5. What do you think is the biggest storyline from that event, and what would you like to dig deeper into when we look back at Bahrain last week ahead of tonight?
Yeah, thinking about it, it was really surprising to see how bad the Tier 3 drivers from last year, or the Tier 2 rookies, as you say, it was really kind of surprising to me to see them struggle because a lot of them had some really good runs in Tier 2 last year. So it's kind of surprising to see not many of them up there last week.
We had Ardell take the lead off the start, but he was in Tier 2 prior, whereas people like Uri, Goatley, and Turbo, they've not been in Tier 2, except for only reserve appearances. The one who I think impressed me out of all of them, I mean, yeah, Goatley and Turbo did kind of struggle a little bit, to your point, but the one who surprised me was Uri. He went on a soft-medium strategy on accident and still finished inside the top 5. Red Bull have not had a 1-2 finish in Tier 2 since Season 11, and they only had 1 victory last season from 6 poles. So I have to think heading into tonight, I'm not going to say at all they're the favorite. They are absolutely not, but they have to be looking for maybe a bit more, you think, Polish?
Absolutely. I think the expectations that Red Bull is to at least be running inside that top 5 and having both cars inside that top 5. So I think the expectations that Red Bull are definitely going to be weighing possibly on Uri and Turbo, but I think they can get it done. They were really good in Tier 3 last year. They can perform under pressure. I think they'll be just fine.
And George mentioned as well, he's already struggling around the circuit so far this weekend, so we'll keep an eye out on that. And if that is true, that is a big thing for Red Bull to take advantage of. So, what do we expect tonight? One thing I'll tell you, based on what we saw yesterday in Tier 3 Polish, by the way, congrats to AMS Devon getting his first victory. The first time in Tier 3 someone has went from worst to first. Nonetheless, it was a chaotic race. We'll get to that in the headlines, but what I think we should expect, Polish, tonight, based on last night's event, more spread out field in a way. I don't expect to see 6 different leaders like Bahrain, but I do expect to see some drivers struggle on the traction. We had that happen last night quite often, and it did cost a lot of people too. And another thing I think that does come to mind are two other things. ERS management, for one. That also goes to part of your strategy, too, I feel like, which was a big talking point. And the other point is how hard it is to race side by side here in some corners. You're going to see passes on the DRS straights, but besides that, you've got to be very careful giving room to other drivers around the circuit. We saw a collision with Valkyrie and Spangley last night due to drivers just being right up against each other, and that can happen again.
Yes, this is China is one of those tracks where the curves are out to get you. The curves will absolutely ruin your race, loop you around, and just take you right out of contention. So you definitely have to be careful not to be on those curves for too long, going around these corners here. I do also expect to have a couple maybe DRS change, um, but as I said, I don't expect there to be too many. I don't expect there to be 6 liters like Bob, but I do expect there to be uh, of a little DRS train. Like I know yesterday we had like a 4 or 5 car DRS train at the front for most of the race, but there still wasn't much passing. But I do think there'll be a nice little group there, I guess you could say.
And expect the undercut to be big. I think it was a little surprising yesterday to see how you guys at Ferrari really took advantage of Alistair, the Academy teammate backmarker, battling the McLarens, and it gave you and Alex Norris a big advantage. We won't talk about what happened after that, but I mean, the good thing is that we know what to expect because of that. So let's go over our championship standings after round one. George, of course, won last week, so he leads. Night Owl by 6 points. Mintoki is in third. Penguin, who's a full-time Haas driver, was in the Ferrari last week, is in the Ferrari tonight this week. He sits fourth. And rookie Uri sits fifth. Now, I want to talk about the constructors because that's where things change a bit more. Aston Martin lead McLaren by 1 point. That's big. I think that is super huge, but Aston don't have the same drivers tonight as they did last week. Remember, Ardell moved up to Aston last week to reserve. He's Williams full-time. Night Owl, because of drivers missing, moving up to Mercedes for tonight. So they don't have the same driver pairing, but that lead is super crucial for the later stages of the season. Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, VCarb, they all scored points. Third to sixth in the championship. Williams, Sauber, Alpine, and Haas scoreless so far this season. Polish, what kind of stands out to you right there? If I had to say what stands out to me, it's the fact that Uri, rookie, is top 5 in the Drivers' Championship. I know you mentioned the Tier 3 drivers who were there last season struggling here in Tier 2 this season, but I kind of didn't expect that at round 1 for Uri. And for the constructors, I didn't expect Aston to be leading either.
No, I'd have to go straight there with you. I mean, obviously, George being first is not really a surprise. Obviously, the champion last year. I would also have to go Uri being top 5 in points for drivers, and then maybe also Night Owl sitting there in second. Obviously, he was great last year for Mercedes, but sitting there in an Aston is definitely a step in the right direction for that team, as well as Aston being number 1 in the constructor standings. And you never know, like Aston, I feel like every week we talk about an Aston having a sneaky good run, so you never know what they could do this season.
I absolutely agree. Let's go over the headlines as we're getting started for short qualifying right ahead of us. So, last week we already mentioned there was a podium change with the race. We had Valkyrie get the podium in Tier 3, Mintoki get it in Tier 2 after a starting decision. Again, first female double podium during a single weekend. The reason why we mentioned that being the change was because Penguin originally had it. Mintoki appealed to 3-2, so that is what happened there. Devon yesterday won a chaotic and cluster-filled Tier 3 race, which saw a red flag change things up, and the race extended by 2 laps due to the event having to be kind of restarted there. With that being said, Alex Norris took pole. Devon, who won, started from P19, and we'll see if anyone else can do that tonight. You were saying?
Just throwing this out there, the Tier 3 race being chaotic was not at all the fault of the drivers. The driving standards was actually really decent for Tier 3 yesterday, which was a nice change of pace. Obviously, there's been some talk about the driving standards not being too good, and a lot of contact being made with drivers, but the driving standards were really good yesterday. It was just more of the EA servers type of
Game
thing.
itself,
Yeah.
yeah. That was not good to see. Yeah, so we had to restart on after lap 18, but the results were taken from lap 16 to set the grid from that point onwards to finish the event. So, to continue our headlines, penalties, and changes, Wood has a qualifying ban. I don't see him here in tonight, but if he does show up tonight, next week, or whenever, he'll have that qualifying ban to serve. Cam was the previous Academy assistant in the Ferrari Academy. That is no longer the case. It's Miniko. Miniko was a previous Academy assistant at the Mercedes Academy last game at some point, so it's good to see what he can cook up for Ferrari. Optical left the league. He was a Tier 3 driver and Tier 2 reserve, so we will not see him on the grid any longer unless he returns. Midfield Maestro had his contract terminated. Because of that, he'll take the Williams full-time for the remainder of the season. And because he's taken the Williams full-time, that also means someone there has left. Matt ZUVO left the server. His contract's been terminated because of that. Because of Maestro's original contract he had terminated, that puts Kieran in the Haas. Kieran does have a previous Tier 2 podium and almost got a podium here in Tier 1 back in Season 8. Kieran Nag, that is. And Beatnik, Tier 2 reserve driver. I want to mention him briefly. He commentated with me yesterday while racing. Very impressive, I must say. But he is attending the Las Vegas Grand Prix. I didn't get to mention this a whole lot yesterday, but I want to mention it today because he has posted some photos in the main chat, and we obviously hope him the safest of trips. So now let's talk about drivers on loan and reserving for tonight. Mally 41, a previous Tier 1 and F2 champion in the Alpine. Torn Penguin moved up to the Ferrari for tonight. Jordan loaned out to Williams. Tim Bed, Tier 3 driver, who got a podium yesterday. First German on podium in a long, long while. In the Aston. We mentioned Kieran already in the Haas with that whole story. We have, I believe his name is pronounced Choke, as if you're going to Chuck E. Cheese. In the Alpine. That's a Dutch name, just to clarify why it's pronounced that way. Maestro and the Williams. Night Owl moved up to the Mercedes. Alex Norris, Tier 3 pole sitter yesterday in the Haas. And I believe his first or maybe second Tier 2 appearance, Faded Nights in the Sauber. It's very good to see him here. And I'm being told to check the Ferrari Academy server. What for?
They can't get someone into the game. That's the problem.
Who's he trying to get in the game?
I have no clue.
I
think Titan, man.
See you. They're trying to get in. Okay, gotcha. Well, RPL streamer account should be appearing online, so they can join off there. But if they do need an invite, I will get that done after Penguin completes his lap. So, meanwhile, we're now going to see if Torn Penguin can set the benchmark at least ahead of Alex Norris's pole lap yesterday. That pole lap, for those of you wondering, wanting to make predictions, 30.274 he did. Obviously, Jordan was the first to cross the line. He's racing for Williams, I believe, his second week in a row. Deployment news for Penguin, crossing the line. He is 0.8 off of the pole time from yesterday. That's not too bad for a benchmark, I must say. We have more coming, Alex Norris. And then after that, we have an Aston Martin. That is Tim Bed. All right, Ferrari, they needed to get the Titan man in here. I will get him an invite right now, since we have laps starting to be completed. Alright, I need to add some people on the streamer account. I need to do this in between races, because I don't understand why I can't get through here. Yeah, I am inviting right now, but if they can't join, or if I don't have them on my list, then we will get them through, what do you call it?
EA.
Through you, Polish,
Oh,
if that's
me.
possible.
I got
Yeah, or
you.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can get him, that'd be great. And once
do
you
that.
do get him, I will make sure I add as an EA friend. That's the thing. Yeah, I can't, so you're gonna have to, Polish, if that's okay. I just don't want to pause the stream while on here. That's all. If this was In between qualifying, it'd be a lot more easier. Nonetheless, George Hart Williams setting the pace already. Fastest 30.6. We've got midfield Maestro. We've got, let's see, Polo God on the lap. We'll go with Polo God. After last week, he did not have the best of races with results. He also got penalized in the stewards room. Yeah, let me try it one more time through EA. I want to see if I have him on my lists here at all. On the very, very bottom. Referring to the Titan Man here, we're trying to invite. I don't understand who Uragondo Milton is. Alright, Danny has joined. Yeah. Let me see on my list. Let me go down here.
Yeah, I still need to add him on EA.
If you have to back out and then do that, that's completely okay.
I might have to.
That's okay. Just to get him in here as quick as possible would be
All
great.
right, yeah, let me back out
Nonetheless,
and then
Alright, all good. Polo God goes second fastest for McLaren. I just want to, yeah, if you can handle the invite since you're co-com, that'd be great.
Yeah, I got
just
it.
so we don't miss anything on stream here.
Yeah, don't worry
but if
about
I
it.
have to get him, then, you know, I get it. Alright, Uri, Wavy, midfield Maestro, Chalke, Kieran, Foles, Mintoki, and Mally 41, the drivers yet to complete laps. So we're going to ride on board with Mintoki, last week's pole sitter. Going into the hairpin now. It is Polish Hammering Comms, by the way, Miniko, if you're wondering who the co-com is. Nonetheless, Mintoki coming across the line, and it will be second fastest. I have to say, Polish, I think the concern for the Mercedes tonight, whether you're Night Owl or Mintoki, is definitely going to be that straight line speed.
I'm sorry, say that again. I was busy inviting.
I was saying how the Mercedes, their weak point tonight, Mintoki, Night Owl, the straight line speed.
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely, for sure. Especially when it comes to the cars that are gonna have that straight line speed, being the Ferrari and the McLarens and those guys. The Mercedes are really gonna have to take advantage of the corners and the better cornering speed for them. I'm gonna make sure I don't get in the car here like last week.
Yeah, just press spectate.
Yeah.
We're gonna watch Uri, Tier 2 rookie. A few rookies in this field, in fact, but I want to mainly talk about the rookies from Tier 3 when we speak of drivers who are rookies. Uri, Tier 3 champion last season, won it by 2.5 points over, in fact, his teammate now, Turbo. And Turbo sits 5th fastest, not far off of second place driver Mintoki, not far off that front row at all. This is great stuff from both drivers from the same country. Again, I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not going to even try it. Nonetheless, turn 8 we come for the Red Bull. Turn 9 and 10, double left here. Very easy to make a mistake. Get stuck on that curb, easy to invalidate. What's the sector split looking like? 51-0. We're going to see how that compares to his teammate when they both do cross, but nonetheless, I've got to say, expectations, Polish, for Uri should not be too high, but they shouldn't be too low either. I think Red Bull at least need to replicate what they had last season by at least having a win, but they can't rack up the least amount of points in Tier 2 in a single season again. That was absolutely atrocious from them last season.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can confirm we do have Titan Man in here, so this is now the second race in a row we've had a full lobby, 20 people.
All right, there we go. So, Uri crossing the line, deployment used, front row. Look at that. Right up to George.
That's the kind of stuff I expect from him right there.
Well, that does kind of change the expectation rate, I have to say, for guys like Uri and Turbo, both inside the top 6. Good friends, I'm sure they'll work together great. FX7 Danny, not on a lap, but he is back out on the track. Or, well, excuse me, first time out on the track. It says teammate back out on the track. Danny just joined us, so my apologies there. We'll look at Penguin now, 5th place on our charts. 48,007 improvement on the charts.
I'm trying to find someone out here on a lap. It looks like Alex Norris might be on a lap here.
All right, well, Penguin, we're watching him right now, and he is using a little bit of battery out of turn 10, Polish, as he's only up by 300ths. What did you notice yesterday in qualifying about when you want to use the battery and when you don't?
Me personally, what I did is pretty much the entire sector one, unless I was using overtake. I was putting it into none, just to save enough overtake for the long straightaway in sector three. Obviously, everyone had their own interpretation of the way you should do, but personally, that's what I was doing. And then once I got off of got out of turn three, that's when I put it onto medium for the sweeping left and right corners.
Now, Penguin equals Uri's second place lap. Look at the margin right there. Dead even. We're going to go to FX7 Danny. You spoke about Alex Norris up to 7th. You know, there was a lot of talk yesterday during Tier 3 that maybe this guy should be Tier 2. What are we thinking now based on 7th place for the Haas man?
I think I'm going to say what I said yesterday. I think Alex Norris, one lap pace, definitely better than Tier 3 standard. I think race pace is where he really, I think, solidifies being in Tier 3, at least for now. I think he is definitely quick in Tier 3, like, very quick in Tier 3. But I think his race pace does balance out his time trial and quality lap pace.
So, we have FX7 Danny, the only big name driver not to have a lap on our boards. He'll cross now, and he'll be 10th fastest.
We got Polo.
I believe Danny just
we got Polo card
fire
crossing here. I'm sorry, and he goes P1.
Yep. Wow. 4 milliseconds ahead of the teammate. Yeah, thank you for getting that one. 1-2 now for McLaren again. I was just gonna say about Danny. I believe just like last season and just like Red Fire, he comes from a different league race prior, so I don't expect the pace to be up to really what it should be right away. But you know who's got the pace right up to what it should be? Polo God on pole position right now for what could be the first time in Tier 2.
Really good for Polo God. He obviously had an absolute heartbreak last week at Bahrain. He could have easily took it down a podium, but just wasn't meant to be, and I think he's looking for vengeance.
Now, George Williams' teammate crossing the line. He'll beat that even more. He was only up in the second sector by 11 thousandths. He found the time in the last sector. George Williams is looking for yet another pole as well. McLaren still remain 1-2.
It's really
We're going to go now to... Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off.
I was going to say, we're going to go to the Mercedes Academy drivers, but they've backed off on their laps. That's Mintoki 5th, invalidating. Tim Bed 6th, I think, just getting ready to start one.
I was going to say, it's very interesting to see that no one has beaten Alex Norris' time yet from yesterday. Still looking for that 130.2 mark. I think we will eventually get it, but it's interesting to see that no one's been able to dethrone him, if you will.
And I thought FX7 Danny here was going to start a lap, but he chose not to there. He heads back to the pit lane. We have quite a bit of action on track right now. I think Goatley and Chucky are the only ones on track. Chucky ended up losing the rear. Goatley on a lap.
Former Tier 3 driver here on a lap.
We've got a question in chat. We have someone asking, what are your championship predictions after round 1?
I think it's hard not to pick George.
It's hard not to, but really it's definitely a question of who will challenge him, because it could be multiple drivers behind that. Goatley leapfrogs himself up to the top 10.
I think the most likely candidates to probably give it to George is going to be one of either Polo God or Mintoki. Personally, I think Mintoki showed a lot of pace last season. She's shown a lot of pace just in general, and she showed a lot of pace yesterday. So I think, given the right results, I think she'll be able to get up there and challenge him.
Now, I wasn't paying attention earlier, but I'm not sure what happened to Kieran Nag. He is out of the session and will be starting plumb last. The Titan man was out on track and now heads back to the pit lane here in the Kicksauber. He's someone who had a lot of pace last season, Polish, but couldn't get the results, and I think that was mainly on his end what that was due to. He just got himself into way too many incidents, but had extremely great pace throughout the races we saw him in.
Yeah, Yeah, good pace is nothing without good racecraft and good luck, and if you don't have those two things, you're just not going to get the results.
So we have almost 2.5 minutes remaining in the session. Give us your qualifying predictions, chat. Let us know who you think will be on pole position or inside that top 3. Yesterday's pole time, if you want to predict anything like that, was a 30.274. We're currently 2/10 off of it, and I'm kind of not surprised we're 2/10 off of it, Polish, because George said it's his worst track. And if that's the case, he's doing good for one of his worst tracks on pole right now.
He's doing very good for one of his worst tracks. If I was at one of my worst tracks, I'd be down there in like the bottom 10. So the fact it's one of his worst tracks and he's still able to get inside to be on pole, that's very impressive.
So we have Wavy Knife crossing the line to start a final lap. We have others following suit. Alex Norris is one of them. Great qualifying pace yesterday and even last week in Tier 3. But Wavy Knife had the wheel failure last week, causing him to retire. And he also had a lap 1 incident. But for Wavy Knife's case, it's time to rebound this week. He's got a teammate, academy teammate, right in front of him that is going to have to get out of the way. Nonetheless, Wavy Knife comes through Sector 1. Now it's turns 7 and 8. He's going to use Hot Lap on the battery. But I'm going to tell you right now, Polish, that's not going to put him in a pivotal spot for the 3rd sector when it comes to your battery.
No.
I know he's saving a little bit in here as he trail breaks, but I still think he's going to lose out compared to what potentially could be. He's up by 2/10, Wavy is, but I'm sure the Aston Martin driver has more in the tank to go.
Yeah, the first 2 sectors are really about saving your ERS to make sure you have enough for that final straightaway. So we're going to see if he has enough for it right here.
Down the back straight, Wavy Knife comes. We've got some slipstream games here from the Mercedes Academy. They're trying to help each other out and make sure they get the best starting spot possible. We now have yellow flags in Sector 3 for drivers trying to get out of the way. Some starting laps, some not. 40 seconds remain. Wavy Knife is our first car to cross the line. He is almost going out of bounds out of the final corner, but Wavy Knife does crack himself into the top 5. Better yet, the top 10. Alex Norris, our next driver on the charts to cross. He was down in the 2nd sector, down in the 3rd sector. No improvement. We have another driver crossing. I believe that's RPL Jordan. RPL Jordan could not find any time there. Next, the Ferraris. We have Penguin on a lap. FX7 Danny starting a lap. I believe we're going to be giving out the checker flag this time. Yes, we will. We have Uri improving slightly. And after last week, you kind of have to wonder, what's the expectations here for Red Bull? They had a poor qualifying last week, but a better race. What's it going to be in China this time? Uri crossing now. He'll be on the front row. A great effort there. Further behind, we have more to come. We have, I believe, a V-carb. That is full.
George is backed out of his lap.
Week. 13th. 13th for V-carb with fulls. You said who backed off?
George did. Polo God's on his lap right now. Polo could take pole here. He's 2/10 up, and George is backed out of his lap. This could be a pole for Polo God here.
We'll look at it. Turbo 8th. We have Penguin coming next. Penguin backed off. That's going to be it for him. The Kick Sauber is next as well. Let's go to Polo, who you were talking about. 2/10 up on the time. He's had prior F2 poles, I believe. He's had prior poles in F1 cars, but that came in Tier 1 when he was a Tier 1 driver. Can he snatch pole from George tonight? He just misses it
barely.
by 100th. Polo God doesn't do it. Mintoki doesn't do it. And I think we only have a few more who could. Timbed misses out. Night Owl's 3rd. A really great result from the Australian. FX7 Danny, last one of the top guys to go. Can he dispatch George? He goes out of bounds. That's going to be it. George Alp Williams, once again, gets a pole lap in, and it wasn't the last lap. George Alp Williams, for his 6th career pole, puts himself 7th all time. And it's a McLaren front row lockout.
And look at that. Look at that gap between the top 4. Just a 10th. Just a 10th between George, Polo, Night Owl, and Uri. That's going to be an interesting battle to see go down.
Track Evolution not doing much. I hear we're talking about in the Twitch chat. George P1 was one of the predictions, and that was correct. George Ralph Williams on pole position. Mally 41 didn't get a lap in there at the end. He remained 18th. Faded Knights got a lap in, but he retired 17th for the Sauber driver.
And look at this, Ryan. Nobody beat Alex's time from yesterday. The Tier 2 drivers being outpaced by the Tier 3 driver yesterday. Very
Wow.
interesting to see.
Does that maybe push the agenda a bit more of Alex Norris going to Tier 2 regardless of the qualifying pace that he has underneath him?
I think we'll just have to wait and see. Egg had said that he's going to be watching out for Alex to see how he does next week at Baku. So we'll see. We will see. But I think
11
that definitely,
milliseconds.
yeah, I think that'll definitely be interesting to look at in the coming weeks.
It will be. 11 milliseconds between both McLaren teammates. Night Owl third, Uri the highest of the Tier 3 drivers from last season. Fifth for Penguin, then Wavy, Mintoki, Timbed, Turbo, and Danny round out the top 10. Both V-Carbs just missing out on the top 10. Alex Norris back there as well. And also, I want to give a shout out to Midfield Maestro and the Williams. I know he's 14th, but that's not too far off the top 10 either from a car that is really second to last on the performance chart.
Also, I noticed while I was looking down the order, I saw that there was only 7/10 between first and 12th. First through 12th is not even 7/10 away from each other. That I don't know why. That just seems like nothing. That's
right.
absolutely insane.
Well, I also have to mention, last week's start, it was the driver from third taking the lead there down at turn 1 to 4. But he lost the lead on the S's. Hard mediums, we're going to see a lot of those tires chosen on the start. Polish, what do we expect for the start? I mean, we had some chaos happen here in a Tier 1 race back in Season 8. Calamity into turn 1, 4 wide didn't work out, and then later in the lap out of turn 10, three cars went out of the Grand Prix.
As long as the person that's on pole, which is George, as long as George can get a good jump off the start, he will be just fine, and he'll just have to let Calamity happen behind him and get a good jump on the rest of the field. I think we're going to see a lot of mediums to hard strategies. That's what it seemed like the predominant strategy was yesterday. I could see the hard medium strategy going, and I did see, I think only one person started on softs yesterday, so I think mediums is going to be the way to go here to start off.
15 seconds. And I want to give a shout out to both Red Bulls as well. Better start than Bahrain. 10th and 14th they were in Bahrain this week. They both start, I believe, inside the top 5 or 6. All right, here we go for round 2 of the season. What do we expect for this one? Who is going to put the championship challenge to George Alp Williams? The 5 red lights come on to start the Grand Prix, and it's lights out, and away we go. Already, you could see Polo God moving over to protect behind George Alp Williams. Now, 3 wide into turn 1 and crash. That's Uri going in the side of the Mercedes, and that's trouble for him. Down the field, Alex Norris goes as well. That's troubling for the man who got pole yesterday and started really well tonight. Now you can see further back, Timbed's been involved in something, so is Titan Man and Mally 41. So Calamity already on lap 1, and we haven't even got to turn 6. Heavy braking now. This is where the championship leader last time went around when we raced here. That was J&T Gaming. Now the Alpine of Choke has gone around, so it's an absolute stinker for Alpine.
Everyone knew that there was going to be Calamity at that first corner, and it seems like that was the case. It seems like Uri, Alex, Timbed, Mally, like at least 5 or 6 cars getting all caught up in that. Meanwhile, George and Polo God say thank you very much and just run away with it. Or stay at the top.
Both V-Carbs on the charge. One setting up the inside of the Ferrari. Further back, we have a car going spinning. That is Kieran, I believe, around. It is Kieran around. Kieran, more trouble there. And both Williams trade spots. Timbed and Alex Norris trade spots. Meanwhile, for the lead, Polo God putting on the battery. This time, around the outside, Night Owl following suit. Look at this, side by side. You can see the positions gained on the side of our screen while we watch the action. Night Owl goes through for second, and further back, both V-Carbs are still not done duking it out. They're both up 4.
The biggest gainer being Titan Man in that Sauber, going from last place up to 15th. But we've got 4 different cars going up 4 positions, that being Danny Goatley, Foles, and Jordan. Great start for the V-Carbs here in the Grand Prix.
Don't forget the Titan Man also up 4 spots. That's technically 5 drivers then. Alex Norris up a place on Faded Nights. Faded Nights falling like a rock there. It just seems like he does not have the pace, usually a Tier 3 driver. But now Penguin down the inside of Polo. Contact. Bash and bang there for 3rd place. Polo God will prevail for now, but he's going to lose the DRS as it's activated on lap 2. I mean, he's 7/10 back, so he should be okay now, but that battling will cost them quite a bit of time. And you could already see as well the top 11 in DRS here, so they all have a chance here after the opening lap. We're going to now put you on the tires here from the start of the Grand Prix. But both V-Carbs look very hungry here to gain spots. That's all happening behind Danny and Wavy Knife outside the top 5.
It seems like we've got almost a split down the middle as to what tires we decided to go for. It looks like we have 8 drivers on the mediums, Torn Penguin being the first on mediums in that 4th
Here we go.
position.
Night Owl around the outside, trying to put the fight to George. This happened last week, and this happened the week prior in Abu Dhabi. Both these two clean rivals, clean racing again. Night Owl just holding on to second over Polo God. Further back, there was a move. I believe that's FX7 Danny and Wavy. But a lot of action happening, and we're on to lap 3 now. We have Polo God behind Night Owl still, and Midfield Maestro in the midfield taking the fastest lap. Alex Norris now takes it.
I'm not going to say anything about that.
Well, Alex Norris back there in 16th. Clearly the lap 1 troubles he had. No damage from that. Foles on the back of Wavy, putting some pressure to the Aston. Down the inside, going for an up and under maneuver. Now Foles cuts in front and gets ahead. Wavy trying to do the switchback. No success there, but he'll go the outside here for turn 7 just to get cut right off. Timbed and the Titan Man also get Jordan there. Jordan, the second week running, he's having a midfield battle here in the second train. The top 11 have a chance. And by the way, Uri, who had that trouble on lap 1, down in 12th. He was the one who went to the side of the Mercedes of Night Owl. I just 3-1 just didn't go well, did it?
No, it did not. That was an absolute calamity quarter, which we did expect from this race. But it's good to see that. It seems like most everyone's sides, maybe Alex, was able to backtrack from that. It seems like Timbed, he fell all the way back to 20th. He was like way behind the field. He had a big spin. He's all the way back to 13th already. Oh.
Lock up from George as he gets overtaken for the race lead. Night Owl back through, and I believe Wavy Knife down to 9th now. So a lot is happening all up front and in the train for the lead. Speaking of the lead, another change up front. Georgia Williams recovers it. Oh, we're going to go back down the inside here for turn 2 and turn 3. We have 2x2 action here at the front of the field. Look at this. On the inside, Polo God hits his teammate there as George has a big tank slapper. Night Owl goes through to take the lead. I wonder if both McLarens have damage. That was a mistake from George, who went into the side of his teammate. 1st to 4th. Our leaders now are racing it out. Penguin and Night Owl. This is for the lead. Uri is caught up to this train due to that little squirmishness from George that checked everyone up. And look at what it's done. Alex Norris further back is on the move. He's up to 13th place on Timbed and actually gets out of DRS there. The Titan Man takes over 14th. A lot is going on, Polish. We need to take a breath. Here we go. A change for the lead once again. I think this is going to be another time where Night Owl is under pressure, and it is. This time not just from one, but by 2 drivers. Penguin through, Polo God through. Polo God gets the door shut on the outside there, meaning Night Owl can go back through, but they're going to be side by side for the final corner if they don't back out, and they do. Polo God concedes it for second. And we're on to lap 5. So much action, just like Bahrain, except not as many lead changes. Here we go to turn 1. The outside line Night Owl's choosing. Polo got on the inside line, maybe to think of a maneuver here on the inside, then outside for turn 2 and 3. Both McLarens already seem racy, but the problem is Georgia Williams, who was leading Polish, he's down to 4th, so he's really been put vulnerable here, and the mistake from George really showing itself. Oh, contact there. Down at turn 6. You saw some cars ghosted inside one another due to the accordion effect all coming into play.
Remember when I said this was going to be a huge DRS train? And it's looking like it is going to be that. And hey, you never know. You know, Alex Norris, he's not that far behind this train. If they keep getting squirrely up there, you never know. This train could become even bigger.
And speaking of that train where Alex Norris is at, that's 13th to 17th. Kieran out of it, Mally out of it, Fata Knights plumb last. So Penguin is moving over to the right side of the track here, left side on our screen. Just
here we go,
maybe
going to the inside.
Not allow any slipstream. Here we go. Night Owl down the inside, little lunge, getting ahead. We're going to be side by side now as we go to the final corner. And Penguin backs off to prevent that from happening. Further back, Foles is trailing Danny just by a 10th here. And for our lead once again, Penguin back through.
I can't even. I feel like I need like some waters or something. Like, this is insane.
And you're not even the main com.
No, I'm not.
FX7 Danny, he's in a V-carb sandwich. Put all the Italians together with the teams, 6th through 8th. It's all happening. Goatley, Danny, Foles. Goatley around the outside of Danny. Danny on the inside preferred line here for turn 6. A little bit of touching there between them. But all's okay. It seems like everyone Polish is getting their elbows out. Look at turn 7 here. A great maneuver. A great overtaking opportunity. Very opportunistic. Danny stays ahead.
Still side. Oh my God. Still side by side. Absolutely insane. If I know Goatley, hey, back out of that.
Timbed off.
Oh,
Podium yesterday. Looks like it's not going that way today. May have been contact. May have been contact. He was in a big train. It just never seems to go some people's way, does it?
Sometimes it's just one of those days, you know?
And here we go. Once again, another change at the front. Penguin on the mediums gets overtaken by Night Owl on the hards. And Polo God looking for a move as well. Down the inside from the McLaren. Irishman who just almost cuts off the Ferrari. Will it be second place for Polo or will it be staying in third? It's going to be second place for the Irishman. Jordan and Kieran, I think there was another change right up in front of that, but we're seeing a lot of changes here, and it's only lap 7.
Feels like this race has already lasted 20 laps, but apparently haven't even hit 25% of the way yet. Just absolutely insane battling throughout the entire field, not just the top 12. Like even these guys in the back have been jostling for position.
Yeah, I think there was another change further back that might have been Kieran and
Jordan. There we go, the Red Bull side by side.
Yup, that's big. Both teammates, both good friends, both 1-2 in the championship last season. A change in places there, a swap, and that was yellow flags further back. I want to say that was for Mally 41.
Can't confirm that was for Mally, at least if that's what it looked like
Maybe
on my
faded?
screen. It didn't
Maybe faded?
look like faded. Faded looked good on my end, but I'm not sure. I didn't get a good view of it.
Polo God will be in DRS of Night Owl this time, and he's saying after last week's race, more yellow flags, says Jordan off. But
that was
Polo
Jordan.
God's just saying after last week's race, he's saying, the Irishman is saying, I'm still there. I'm still there. I have a chance. And look at this. Another new leader to this race. Polo God back ahead and ahead of Night Owl. In fact, he's ahead of the 2 cars he used to race in Tier 1. Mercedes and Ferrari. Goatley, 3-second, cut in the corner. He was trying to make a maneuver on Danny, and they're wheel to wheel. Danny ahead.
So that's the first victim of the penalty bug.
And I'm sure there could be more racing side by side down the straight. Goatley gets the advantage.
Really interesting.
Yeah, Polo said during qualifying, Polish, he said he forgot to put his ERS back to hot lap, and he said that costed him pole position. That is literally the difference 11 milliseconds will do for you.
Yeah, that's how it is. Speaking of ERS, it's really interesting to see. We talked about ERS management back at. Oh, Jordan retires in the pits. he has some
Is
dingers
that going
after
to be
that
counted
spin.
as a retirement on track? Because he didn't even get to the pit lane, and he said just a moment ago in the driver's chat, what a bleep show. He is not happy with the way this event went for him. He had 2 spins, I believe, but very unfortunate for Jordan, our first driver we lost from the event.
Yeah, I saw that spin. He had some pretty decent front wing damage. Could have got it replaced and kept going, but it seemed like he just wanted to be done with it. But talking about ERS management here, Torn Penguin, almost a full battery, so he's really been, he's definitely the best when it comes to ERS management at this rate, as we get Malley with a 3-second penalty as well, back in 17th.
Yeah, you know who's not conserving ERS this time? Night Owl through for the race lead. Penguin also maybe thinking of a maneuver, but not doing so. Wavy Knife also up a place. That's 11th for Wavy. Night Owl leads the Grand Prix on to lap 9. Remember, him and Polo on technically what's the same strategy. Mediums for fulls, Goat Lee, Danny, and Penguin at the front of our field. I just have to wonder with where V-Carb runs right now, 6th and 7th, actually ahead of both Red Bulls here. Is this reminiscent here of Tier 3, where the V-Carbs just seem to always be in the fight?
Oh, absolutely.
Tier 3?
The V-Carbs, sorry, I was going to say, the V-Carbs get a bad rep. I think they're a lot better of a car than people give them credit for. It seems like those V-Carbs are just always up front, always in the battle for possible wins, possible podiums. It doesn't at all surprise me that they're up there.
I want to take us off the tires, but I know people are going to start to pit soon because I want to say this is when you pitted yesterday during the race, Polish. Another yellow flag. Malley 41 has hit more trouble. That's been encountered, I believe, in turn 4, turn 5 area. Just so unfortunate for a past champion of RPL not having it go his way this game cycle so far.
Absolutely. Going back to the tire strategy, I can't confirm. I did pit on lap at the end of lap 10, starting on lap 11. So, and you saw the absolute massive undercut. Like I was about maybe 3 or 4 seconds behind Alex, and if I didn't get caught in that thing with the Alpine, I would have been ahead of him. So the undercut here is really, really massive.
Speaking of Polo God, right now we're sitting in second, just trailing the Mercedes. Only just, maybe getting a little tap in the braking zone. Oh, speaking of a tap, I think Foles has been affected there. Maybe going for a move on Mentoki. It didn't work out. Goatley there in the wings. I was just going to say about Polo God, who looked like he got a tap. It's been 937 days since his last win in RPL. Coming back in F2. And his teammate might be there for some assistance in the background. Here's George around the long way, trying to make it happen. He's going to have the inside line for turn 2. If he just sticks with it, he can make it work. Side by side to turn 3 we go. Kieran in the penalty box. George threw up to 3rd, but only momentarily.
Can confirm that, a little bit of contact on the straightaway there. Getting beaten and banging here for 3rd place.
Uri off the road. Uri off the road. He may have had contact with Danny, but that is unfortunate
Still
for him.
side by
we remain
side for
side by
3rd.
side for turn 8.
George
And
finally
Penguin
backs off.
Yeah, stays in front there for the podium place. Great action here. It's only lap 10, folks. Stick with us.
That was fantastic. Going back to that incident from before with Mentoki, it seemed like she got a little bit of a bump from one of the V-carbs, and she almost went around. It was a great save by her. I'll give her that.
Kieran, the first one into the pit lane. That is for medium compound tires. Meanwhile, for our race lead, Polo God does not have it, but wants it, and he'll go for it this time on the Mercedes. Night Owl can't protect for much longer, and also, that's 2 McLarens on the charge. George I. Williams trying to straighten the steering wheel out as he makes the move here on the Ferrari, and he does so, but that Ferrari trying to go for a back attack and can't do it. Also, for 13th place, Chalke gets the Sauber, and again, Penguin maybe trying to re-overtake here for 3rd. Won't do so. Into the pit lane, I think there was someone in the background. It was midfield Maestro going for it, and I believe we have another one. Another taker. That is Chalke heading to the pit lane for Alpine.
I do like what midfield Maestro did right there. He is trying to get the undercut because he did lose that front pack, which, by the way, he was in for the first 7-8 laps of the race. He was bringing up the rear of that front pack, so he's really had some decent pace this race. And also,
yeah, I must say, George Williams, you speak of the front pack. He's being a nice rear gunner for Polo God. I mean, I know George, as the championship leader, would love to win this race, but you have to assist your teammate when it's possible. Polo knows that this season the expectations are just get back to the podium in RPL. Start with that and then build from there. He's not had a podium in 497 days. You want to know what happened in his last podium and his only other one in Tier 2? Polish, he was up there with George. It was the only second place finish for Haas in Tier 2.
Get a little sense of deja vu this race from his last win. I'm just trying to make sure George got DRS. No, we didn't.
And here we go. Again, a trade for the lead. Night Owl back through.
I think George did lose DRS for that straightaway. Really lost some time to Polo and Night Owl.
I feel like it has to be talked about a bit more as we have a little bit of touching between Foles and Danny trading on the paint there for 7th. I do feel like it has to be talked about more. Big moment.
Big
Bulls
moment.
lost the rear.
That was a fantastic save. He was like 90 degrees facing towards the wall.
Now for the lead. Polo God back through. I was just going to say, a lot happening there. Danny to the pit lane. Uriah ahead of Foles. I don't remember what I was saying about the DRS. Oh, I was saying how I feel like it has to be talked about a bit more. If you lose DRS and you're in the front pack, I feel like you're out of it. I really do, because the big thing when I was in the Kick Sauber in Tier 3 and even you were, Danny penalty, that's crucial. That's actually out of the pit lane. He's had an off coming out of the pits. That's where he got the 3-second from. That's very unorthodox. I was just going to say, Polish, when I was in the Sauber, you were in the Sauber and I was in the Ferrari for the one race. You were in the Ferrari. I feel like there's races we relate to where we had a chance and then we didn't. And when we didn't, it's because we lost the DRS with the pack of cars that had it. And I feel like that's what George cannot let happen here, and he's got back in it.
Pretty much, yeah. There was that race that you're talking about was at Baku, and Baku and China are very similar in the fact that... Oh my God.
Yeah, well, that's Mally and Danny.
Yeah,
We're going to go back to our lead for a moment. Night Owl reclaims it.
That was a very, very big moment. That was a great save by Danny.
It was. They're still not done.
No, they're still beating and banging as Danny finally gets by Mally.
Oh, my word.
Something about Ferrari and Alpine coming together at China. I don't know what it is. But,
yeah, I know, right?
As I was
happened
saying,
yesterday. Goat land of the pits.
As I was saying, talking about that Baku and China are very similar in the fact where if you lose DRS, you're pretty screwed, all things considered.
Right. And Josh, the previous Merck Academy team principal, noting in the chat, George did have DRS. He may have had it down that straight, but he was a 10th out of DRS at one point. So even if he had it, he was flirting with being in it and being out of it. So you just got to be weary of that as a driver, that you can't allow yourself out of this at all. And I'll tell you right now, as drivers start to pit, we will see undercuts, we will see overcuts, but Polish, this is really, I think, where in the Tier 1 race last week at Bahrain, and even at one point during Tier 2 when we formed into 2 different trains for the lead, where obviously battling does change that, but we'll start to form maybe 2 different trains at the front of our field, or some drivers will break out of that DRS when everything does cycle out.
Yeah, absolutely. You were talking before the race how we had, I think you said 6 different leaders at Bahrain. This race, we've already had 4. We've already had 4 different leaders at this race, so the aggression levels are definitely high.
I know Mintoki back there is saying, I want some DRS, I want the lead. She was moving around in the braking zone, jockeying from left to right, and actually on the move here.
She went off the screen. I thought she spun it. I thought she looped it around. That scared me.
Penguins in the pits. Yeah, I mean, even with the pit lane here, everyone just goes straight on here from this angle, or just ends up, when the camera goes out, you don't see them, so you kind of get a little worried there. So I get your point.
Oh, that was incredible. I'm honestly surprised Penguin waited this long to pit. Figured would have went for a little more of an undercut, but I do understand it at the same time. See if he faded, gets a 3-second.
We have a spin. That's an off from Chake in the Alpine. He spun in 2 different places in Sector 3 in qualifying. I think that was one of the same places he spun out in qualifying. We have a battle down the main straight. That's Mally 41 and Alex Norris. Excuse me, that's Kieran and Mally, not Alex Norris. But Mally gets passed for 14th place. Kieran has pitted. Mally 41 has not. Mally 41, by the way, on what is low fuel mode, so I'll have to conserve there some fuel to finish this Grand Prix without running out. I feel like that has been an issue at our opening races, no matter if it's the opening start of the game cycle or opening start of the season, and in prior seasons, regardless of the tier, fuel. But I know some people just like to bank on the fact that there could be safety cars. And you know what? With some of the drivers' mistakes, we could have that again tonight. Meanwhile, a trade for the lead is about to happen, but it doesn't. Night Owl stays ahead.
You know, I didn't realize that Mally hadn't even pitted yet, so it makes me wonder why he was racing Danny so hard for 13th place when he hadn't even pit yet. That's really confusing.
Both Red Bulls almost come together. Polo's in. Both Red Bulls almost both pitted there at the same time. Both Red Bulls miscommunication there. I think I know the answer to that. Danny, now behind Goatley, behind Penguin. Think about who Mally is teammates with there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now that I think about it.
McLaren cars.
Yep, that's McLaren car. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now.
George, the Alp in your name stands for Alpine Academy. I'll just put it that way. Because they are a big help to him. That happened in Imola last season with Fulls. And now I think Mally 41 trying to help here for George and Polo's sake. But Polo, speaking of him, he's come out behind Penguin, who is our net leader. Polo on the better tires on the revert strategy for, I think, a second week running. Him and Night Owl both were on that last week. And Uri comes out behind midfield Maestro. That's a bit of a shocker, but the thing is, I think that in-lap Uri may have had it coming together with his teammate.
I will say, I've given RPL some slack over, you know, maybe the not so great racecraft when it comes to certain drivers, as we have the McLaren of George going for the lead again. And get it done.
You were saying?
As I was saying, one thing you will not find a shortage of in RPL is good teammates. There are a lot of good teammates in this league. A lot of, you know, I personally have had a lot of good teammates. Invade, Alex, even SV has been a good teammate at times. You will find a shortage of that in RPL, for sure.
Uri ahead of midfield Maestro. Polo getting the upper edge on Penguin, and George and Wavy both blink to the pits. Night Owl leads the Grand Prix because of that. Further back, there was another move. I couldn't really tell who that was, but where is Polo God going to come into turn one relative to George? George coming out just ahead of Goatley, but losing the time to Penguin and Polo. Polo has jumped George massively.
Yeah, that's the undercut I was talking about. That was a huge undercut by that McLaren. We're going to see how much Penguin holds George up here. So I think that could become even more of an undercut for Polo.
Remember, George, one lap younger tires than Polo. Uri, same tire wear, same tire length. He's trying to get by Danny here. And like I said, Polish, this is where the DRS trains all spring out. And I think we're going to see that happen here once everyone pits. The only thing that can make everyone kind of come back together is a lot of battling or the guys on revert strategies.
Here's something I find a little bit interesting. You see that Ferrari engine in fourth. No, never mind. I was going to say maybe that Sauber could hold up Polo a little bit to try and give Penguin a little bit of time to possibly get something done, but it looks low. He tried it. He tried for a little block there.
We're going to see maybe Titan Man come back at it. Titan Man has had some questionable racecraft in the past, and he pushes Polo off. Contact there for the net lead.
That's not good.
The Titan Man not pitting still, but this is backed Polo up into Penguin.
If I was Polo,
Polo used
I
to
would
be a part of this academy. Not the way you would want to repay him, but absolutely the way you want to repay Penguin to get back up in the chance for a lead. Speaking of the lead, we had a fifth different leader. Mintoki in. She took the lead briefly. Penguin through, but has a chance now to get to Polo.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, obviously, I'm part of Ferrari Academy. I'm by. Oh, Penguin, big moment there. Almost looped it there. I would be fuming if I was Polo, because that was an absolutely egregious set from Titan Man.
It's similar to what Alistair was doing against the McLarens yesterday. We have a spin, I think.
I think
It might have been wavy. I couldn't really tell who it was. But we had another move between some guys inside the top 11 places. How about Foles here at turn 8 on the inside now of Maestro? He backs off. Yeah, realizing that's not the place to continue side-by-side action. I'm just going to say I'm probably a little biased because it's Polo, and I don't know. I'd have to look back at it, but it did seem a bit ambitious.
It was very ambitious.
Like I said, I started off with saying Titan Man has had questionable racecraft in the past. It's no surprise that it happens again, but I think the good thing for him is that it's been his only incident today. So
yeah,
Night Owl's in.
Mitoki makes the pass.
Uri.
Yep. Oh, big spin!
Oh, Mitoki got the boot, I think.
Yes, she did. I had a good view of that.
Oh no. George is on the hunt. He's got the fastest lap now of this race, trying to hunt down Polo. The Titan Man yet to pit. He got overtaken by George briefly. Night Owl coming out behind Mintoki, who just got tapped around there. So Mintoki and Night Owl, both on the medium tires, are going to have to try some charge throughout the whole entire field here. And by the way, let me just pull this up quickly. Gap to leader here from first to ninth, 8 seconds. So not bad so far. And we're going into turn 6 now with everything remaining the same. But guys, very close to one another. And girls.
Very much so. I had a good view of that Mintoki incident, and it looked like it looked like Uri just cooked the corner a little bit too hard. There's not much you can really do about that.
And was that damage? I think someone hit the bollard. That may have been Danny, actually. Oh, no, it's Uri. Uri's had an off. That was right in front of Danny. That's why the Titan Man lets Goatley go. But does Uri have damage? I don't see any visible, but his off puts him back to 9th.
And he's lost the DRS train to the guys in front of him. That all but seals Uri's fate unless he can get a safety car, I believe.
And this is what Polo wants to see. George F. Williams up to 2nd place. Mintoki through on Danny. We have lots of action happening. Goatley with the Titan Man. The Titan Man, I think, let him go on that turn 10 straight to get DRS for turn 11. Very smart to try and hold people up for Danny. It's working so far because Mintoki not far off DRS, and in that train is Danny.
You know, something I just realized, Titan has actually already hit, I believe. It says he has 18 lap hards on lap 19, unless I'm crazy. But
18 laps complete, that's why.
Yeah, you're right. Apologies for me.
Well, a little wiggle wobble allows Night Owl to go side by side. A little bit of touching. RG Bargy, more RG Bargy down to turn 6. Now Night Owl having the outside line. Gets a little bit of shoving there, and it allows Mintoki through.
That
was very ambitious. Night Owl letting him back pass because he would have overtaken off track, and the Titan Man saying, yeah, I realized that was my fault. I will let you go, and then go back down the inside and pull a dummy.
God. I missed that one. I was clipping the last one. I completely missed that one. All I saw was Titan going off.
Well, we're catching on the stream, and I don't think this is over yet. I'll tell you right now, George Williams reeling in our leader, Polo God. The gap went from 2.2 to 1.8. Papaya rules maybe at McLaren. I hope we can see a clean battle between teammates. Uri on the inside now of Titan Man, and we have more yellow flags for the Alpine. Meanwhile, Uri slingshotting past the Titan Man, with the Titan Man getting defensive and going back to the inside line for the corner. Is he going to go late again? No! There's contact into the hairpin. He came across the RB, and it allows midfield Maestro to take advantage. Look at Turbo as well.
Titan finally goes in the pit.
Car off again.
Here goes Turbo on the Williams.
Yes, 9th place up for grabs. Who wants it more? Turbo now protecting what he now has.
Little contact, but Turbo takes it over.
Yeah, fair play.
Foles looks like he's going to try and take out that last point spot.
Yeah, here goes Foles back up the inside in the RB. behind teammate Goatley, by the way, who runs fourth with the penalty. A little more contact. Now to turn 7. They remain wheel to wheel, and midfield Maestros to back out there. I was just going to say, Foles had some great races last season in the McLaren and Alpine, but it seems he does not have the same pace this time in the RB, but still putting up a great fight nonetheless. 1.5 the gap now between 1 and 2.
We got more yellow flags. Looks like that might have been faded from what I can see.
No. It was Chucky.
Ah, okay. I didn't see that.
That's not what Polo wants to see either.
I'm really curious to see if these hards that Penguin is on is going to come as we have Mintoki, Goatley, get a little RG Mintoki take over 4th place. Was Night Owl.
Fair play there. Both on the charge and both trying to hunt down a podium place here for 3rd.
As I was saying, I'm really curious to see if these hards are really going to come into play for Penguin. I don't know how long those mediums are going to last. You got to get 7 more laps on them.
Kieran back to the pits doing a 2-stop for the Haas team. You know who also could be on for some points, pending whatever happens in front of him? Alex Norris, who had the lap 1 troubles. Foles right now running 10th, by the way. 4 places now behind Goatley, but could take advantage of the guys who have penalties.
It's been a great drive back from Alex Norris. Very quiet day, obviously, since he's been back in, like, I'd say 11th to 12th most of the race. But from the lap 1 spin, he's really put a dent in that in the gap, I guess you could say.
Yeah, let's see how things shape up between 1st and 2nd, though, because the gap was 2.2 at one point. Now it's 1.1. Polo God, if he loses this Grand Prix, we'll definitely be talking about the Sauber driver who held him up. Nonetheless, we have a driver out of the race in the pit lane. That's our 2nd driver to give up. That's the Alpine. Nonetheless, a two-horse race here for 4th is a teammate swap. Mintoki and Night Owl. Night Owl cut the corner there while getting through, but I think George is just shy of DRS here.
I was going to say
on the teammate.
I was going to say something else to take a note here. Night Owl and Mintoki have really put a gap in that. Have really put a dent in that gap from. Oh my God.
Is that the Alpine?
Yeah, that was the Alpine that came back on track. Or was that the?
That is the Alpine that came back out on track. You're right. That's the problem with retiring.
Yeah, that's very strange. Porn Penguin almost ran into the back of him. That's why I was so scared there.
This is the problem with retiring in the pits, and it's why it's not allowed and it's strictly penalized. Speaking of people, the tight man gets fastest lap there in the Sauber. I was just going to say, I don't know if for Penguin's case that car was ghosted, but if it wasn't, then that would have been very huge. Speaking of cars ghosted, yeah. Foles is now ghosted because he's lagged out. He will need an invite back. If you can handle that, Polish, that would be great.
I can try, yeah.
I will try as well. Meanwhile, George has got DRS on our leader. I need to do a better job of getting people here on through EA with this.
Foles isn't on Xbox. I don't have him added. That sucks.
I need to make sure that gets done before each race. Now I'll make sure to do that. But nonetheless,
but yeah, George 7/10. He's gonna have DRS here on Polo.
Danny also gets overtaken. The Titan Man with another penalty. Is he just cutting corners to try and have a battle now with the Aston because of how slow that car is?
I was gonna say add him on to all those post-race penalties he's gonna have for the countless dive bombs he sent today.
Yeah. It's not like it was a controlled dive bomb, which you would probably be okay with getting away with, but yeah.
Not great.
Speaking of dive bombs, no dive bomb needed through
Night Owl and
Aston.
Mintoki. Night Owl and Mintoki are going to have DRS on this Ferrari by the time they get to the straightaway.
And if both McLarens hold each other up, don't count them out for a victory. I know it's unlikely, but it could happen. Uri, Goatley, 2 former Tier 3 drivers trade places. That's for 6th. Uri through. Uri had the trouble on lap 1. I have to say this is a very good recovery drive considering the circumstances. Kieran, Nag's fastest lap. No pun intended.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. You see Mintoki and Night Owl, they're on fresher softs than George and Polo are on. So it really goes to show how important even one or maybe even two lap mediums are to everyone else.
I mean, this is really Polo's race to lose. I don't understand how he's fallen so far back here, besides, obviously, the Titan Man holding him up. But here we go. Papaya rules, or their own version of Papaya rules. What's going to happen here at the McLaren/Alpine Academy? Polo God stays in front. George has been reeling him in for the last few laps. You know who's been reeling each other in? Both Mercedes reeling in the Ferrari for third place. It's up for grabs. Penguin covers it.
That was a good cover by Penguin there. Night Owl's going to have a second chance to do it on this one straightaway here.
By the way, Polo God has not had a victory in F1 cars yet in RPL. This could be his first. If he just does it, he's trying to hang on. Yellow flag for their back. I believe that's Faded Knights, but here we go. Third place. A change there. Penguin is racing still, wheel to wheel, now into turn 2 and 3. The snail section provides a great overtaking opportunity. More bash and bang there between the Mercedes and Ferrari, and Night Owl slots in front of the Ferrari. Now it's Mentoki's opportunity to take advantage. Here we go, the Ferrari with a little send to the inside.
That's what we like to call a clean send, something that some drivers can take a note of. Also, that caution was for Titan Man, and he actually also spun again on the front straightaway.
You're really throwing shade to your own academy, huh?
Yeah, well, you know.
I mean, I get it. But Goatley
Uri
gets ahead of Uri.
Hey, Uri.
Yeah, that's the third time actually. Lap 1 had trouble there earlier on. May have clipped the curb when he did it earlier on, and had it happen again, down to 9th. Wow. That corner is becoming a detriment for him. Again, the two McLarens up front.
Here it is.
About to trade places. George boosting, and George takes over the lead once again on lap 24. Polo God behind his teammate. And it's going to be a McLaren battle for the victory here because they're 7 seconds ahead of the next car.
Yeah, the McLarens have really put a dent in this gap here. It really helps that the Ferraris and the Mercedes have both been battling each other for the better part of 2 laps.
Polo God consuming a bit more ERS compared to George. 80% in his tank compared to 60 on George's. Also a move I think is going to be happening for 6th. It does not now. Goatley ahead of Turbo. And I have to give big props to Goatley regardless of the penalty status. 6th place is really good and only just his second full-time Tier 2 race. I know he had a podium last season in Singapore, but this is just great stuff regardless of the chaos.
Yeah, 6th place is a fantastic finish. Nothing to be upset about. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be 6th place after penalties get applied. Also, Turbo sitting in 7th. Probably going to end up 6th after the penalties. Pretty decent.
We're going to talk about these rookies a lot this season, Polish.
I agree, and I was obviously just talking about how I think the rookies didn't necessarily perform the way they should have in Bahrain. They're definitely performing the way they should tonight.
Did Polo God have a error there? He lost about 2/10 to George, but still behind now using battery. It's going to be a McLaren fight for the victory. 5 seconds ahead of Night Owl. And also, shout out to Maestro running 10th for the Williams team. Very good effort there. Both passing the lap car. That's Faded Knights. He'll have a front row seat for the victory battle. But which McLaren will it be? Turbo gets ahead of Goatley, and I just want to keep us in mind of this as we reach 3 laps to go. If the front 2 collide, Night Owl is sitting there 3rd, only 5 seconds back. Uri overtakes Danny there, and for our lead, Polo God is still trailing George, but only just. 3 laps to go, and these two were 1-2 in Polo God's last and only other Tier 2 podium. It has been 497 days since then, but it's also been 937 days since the last victory for Polo. He's hungry for more than just a 2nd place finish.
I agree. It's hard to see them getting together. Obviously, they are teammates. Obviously anything can happen, but from what I've seen, they've been racing each other very clean, very respectfully. I don't necessarily see how they could maybe mess up this 1-2 finish, but obviously it is possible. Obviously, I don't want to cast or curse them.
Night Owl's bringing that gap down, by the way. I just want to make people aware of that. Gap was 6.1 a little bit ago. It's 4.4 now. Is George being in front here kind of costing Polo a bit of time of what he could do, or is both McLarens not on it right now? You gotta wonder what the case is there. Night Owl also has a train he's bringing along with him. 4.1 the gap between 2nd and 3rd. We gotta wonder what could happen here. Nonetheless, we're coming to 2 laps to go.
Night Owl's about to get DRS off that Sauber too, so he's really going to make up some time here.
And that will pay big dividends for the people behind, well, compared to the people behind him, because they won't overtake him on the straight because of that. You know, we'll overtake here, maybe Mintoki. Left to right, moving all over, trying to find a way past the Ferrari and can't do so. Polo God, you got to wonder, when will he have a go on the McLaren? You know, George has been last lap George here this season, really putting everything right to the limit, it must be said. And he made another last lap overtake last week for the victory. And that's really what he's been known for a lot here in Tier 2 as of recent. The last lap moves, the last lap overtakes, and he's made it work. You got to wonder, is he going to set Polo up for that, even as a teammate, to kind of be distracted by? Yellow flags for Mally.
I was going to say, I think the reason that Night Owl is gaining so much is because he is, you could see the McLarens, like, Polo's at 100% ERS. George is at, as Mally gets disqualified from the session here, George is at 81. As you see, Night Owl, he's at 25. Penguin's at 27. So they're really juicing that ERS, but they are still gaining so much time. They're down to 2.9 seconds now.
Timbad gets Foles there for 13th. Alex Norris claims the last point spot as things run right now. And I think Faded Knights is running into more trouble. He's just getting out of the way of our leaders. Speaking of the leaders, 0.7 the gap. Night Owl's almost pulled away DRS, and he's 3 seconds adrift from these guys. 1 lap to go next time by. George in 90% in the battery. Polo God down on none on the straight, but has DRS, so he'll gain some down the straight while saving that battery. When do you go for the move becomes the question. Here comes Mintoki and Penguin racing it out. Now, weaving and bobbing down the straight to try and break the toe. Kieran gets Foles for 14th. That won't matter. But the 2 McLarens run 1-2 onto the last lap. Is it going to be George for a 12th Tier 2 victory, or will it be Polo for his first in F1 cars and his first since Season 12 F2, a total of 937 days ago, trying to bring the heartbreak from Bahrain to be non-existent here in China?
And you see Polo throw that ERS into hot lap. He is ready to absolutely send it in here as he gets a little loose there.
That's going to cost him. That's going to cost him. That lost him 2/10 to George. That can allow George to kind of save more ERS here. Are we set up for a McLaren last lap fight? Which one's going to be, George or Polo? George has won before in Tier 2 and F1 cars. Polo God is not. George has had 22 victories across all tiers as well. Kieran lags out on the final lap. That's for 14th. That is not our focus right now. Our focus is 1 and 2. George still saving battery.
Polo's had a couple of slides out of corners, and that you might think that might cost him, but here we go. Coming onto the last straightaway here. Polo with a 5/10 gap over George. He's going to try and juice that ERS and give it all he has.
DRS will be applied for Polo, both on the overtake button. It's going to be a McLaren fight for the victory. Polo got it. Polo God had heartbreak last week while fighting for the victory with George. Here he goes on the outside line. He's never won in F1 cars. He's not won since Season 12 F2 in Silverstone. He'll slide in behind his teammate and maybe come short of the victory again. George Williams has won 6 of the last 8 races, make it 7 of the last 9. George wins in China. Polo God returned to the podium for the first time since Season 9, and Night Owl hangs on for 3rd. It's a McLaren 1-2. Great result for them. Mintoki 4th, Penguin 5th, Turbo, Goatley, Uri, they trade places. Danny and Alex Norris, the last points runner. What a battle between both McLarens, keeping it clean.
George, that move was absolutely fantastic. George cut off his teammate perfectly. He just, he knew that Polo was going to be going for that, what am I thinking of? Oh my god.
Nonetheless, it's a pull to win for George.
The crossover, that's what I'm looking for. He knew Polo was going to try and go for the crossover.
Yeah.
He knew Polo was going to try and go for the crossover, and George cut it off perfectly. That was a great battle, and a very clean battle from the teammates to take home the first second for McLaren.
It's a McLaren 1-2 in Tier 2, and guess what? That's their first 1-2 in Tier 2.
Absolutely not. I'm not even gonna. Okay, so who was your driver of the day, Ryan?
We'll talk about that after the podium celebrations. The champagne kicks up on the podium. George, it's a 12th victory and his 7th of the last 9. That's just insane. Back to back to start the season. 3 in a row. He'll put the fist in the air. The Irishman on the podium once again. Polo God second to George for a second time. And Night Owl is third. Get used to seeing these 3 on the podium. They could have been the top 3 on the podium last week if it weren't for Polo God's bottle. Speaking of bottle, he'll spray one this week.
That was
1,
a
2,
fantastic
3.
race.
Finish 1, 2, 3. I agree. That was great stuff. No one stuck in DRS the whole race either. I mean, that's a lot better. I like that a lot. All right. Well, here's your full results, folks. George Polo 1-2. Not the first time they're 1-2, but the first time McLaren is. A lot of penalties compared to what I expected, really. 3 drivers we lost from the event. Driver of the day, you say?
I think it's easy to give it to one of the McLarens, George or Polo. I would have to go George simply because he did prevail at the end.
Yeah. If Polo got it, I would have gave it to him. But Polo God will be kicking himself for the fact that the Sauber held him up, and maybe that's going to be his what if into the next race. But he returns to the podium. You know, he's had a time from season 11 to season 14 where he did races, returning in RPL, but not getting himself on the podium. Now he's back up on the podium. Congrats to Polo on that. That'd be my runner-up, I think, for driver of the day. And I think the shout-out I have to give from further behind would probably be either Maestro or Alex Norris, because they had some very quiet races.
Yeah, I was just
both on cars that are not top 10 worthy, but we're fighting for 10th.
I was just about to mention, if I'm looking outside the top 2, who I think are obvious candidates for driver of the day, I think you have to give it to either Mitoki, Night Owl, who did fantastic drives to get back up to, and actually almost caught up to the McLarens at the end. But then, yeah, obviously Maestro and that Williams really had just a quiet, nice day and got some points for the team, as well as Alex Norris coming back from that lap 1 spin.
George Up Williams, by the way. I want to mention this because we couldn't really mention this as he crossed the line for the victory. He has now tied fellow Welshman Jack Miles for the most podiums in Tier 2 history. Remember, this does not include our F1.5 days, but as we go to Portugal, race 150 for Tier 2 next week, can George get a 32nd podium in Tier 2 and have the most all-time next week? Speaking of podiums, Polo God breaks a 6-season podium drought, and Night Owl still left without a victory here. I think that's one thing we'll be talking about before the next Grand Prix in Portugal. Night Owl still without a victory. Polo too. It really shows, Polish, if you're going to take the fight to George, there's a lot you have to do here.
This is true. Absolutely. It was an absolutely phenomenal race. Just looking at the driver's chat, it seems like there are a couple people mad at Titan for his egregious dive bombs. But for the most part, it seems like everyone's being pretty tame, which is unusual for an RPL after race chat. But
in a way,
yeah. But there wasn't really too much. I would say beating and banging. Like obviously there were a couple of contact moments going for moves, but I wouldn't say there were any like egregious moves. You know,
Agreed.
It wasn't that bad.
Very clean race.
Very clean.
VSC
race.
free, safety car free. Again, just like Bahrain.
And we go an entire Tier 2 season with no safety cars.
I don't think we've ever had that happen, but we have went consecutive races the past few seasons at some point without safety cars, so just wait for Leon Miner to show up to a Tier 2 race.
Oh,
he is
well,
in the lobby, so.
Come on.
I'm sorry. Everyone loves Leon.
I know.
Anyways, we have more to come. F2 is tomorrow in Spain. I will not be on commentary for that. We'll have to get somebody for that one. F1 is in Jeddah. That'll be tomorrow. Both races tomorrow to end off the weekend. And Tier 3 in Baku next week. But Tier 2 do not go to the same circuit as them for the first time this season. Tier 2 will be in Portugal for race 150 of Tier 2 for round 3. Polish, I will be having you there for that one. What do we expect for next week's Grand Prix?
Oh man, I expect more of the same. Good racing, clean racing. At least that's what I hope we will get. I'm trying to remember. Can you refresh my brain? Where did you say we were going for Tier 2 next season or
Portugal.
next week?
Portimao.
Portugal. Yes. Ooh, Portugal's a great track. I've not been there in a while, so I'm very much looking forward to that track. I love Portugal. Love me some Portugal in my life.
I mean, the interesting thing when George didn't win in the last 2 times, he was just right in the brink for a victory at Japan, and it was Mintoki who won in Qatar. Just, beating Titan Man and Red Fire. George was 4th there, but got promoted to 2nd in the storage room. I have to wonder, although George has really been on it, when is it going to be that he has one of those races like Qatar where he's just not anywhere to be seen? I'm very interested to see when that does happen this season, because he does seem like the favorite and really should be as we continue racing next week for Tier 2 in Portugal. If you want to join us for the remainder of the weekend, we have F2 and F1 to end off Spain and Jeddah. Join us for then. Ryan Searles, Polish Hammer, signing off. Have a good night, folks. We'll see you then.